We have someone here to speak. Come forward here, sir. Remove your hat, step to the podium and tell us what you want us to consider. In fairness, we have had your application and your materials a week, so we have had a chance to look at that and we want to hear from you. What is it you're asking from us today?
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Patrick Weckel, and I'm one of the managers of JRP Connect, also local Ben Soft Pretzel. We have a store in Benton Harbor in the Arts District right now. I'm here to request a sign modification to allow an additional sign / logo on an awning to be placed on 608 Pleasant Street. The logo sign being requested would be 19 inches by 24 inches, which would not exceed the city rules. The logo would be placed on an awning end cap. And there is a picture of the awning in your packet. And the end cap is 60 inches by 48 inches, but the logo in that end cap is only 19 by 24 inches, which is 3.2 square feet. Times 2 would be 6.4, plus the main logo is 30.7, so I am below the city's requirement.
Oh, right. The size was, well, maybe I'm wrong. Kirsten, if I have your, can I have you back for a moment? Am I misunderstanding? I didn't think it was about the size. Wasn't it about the
It's not, I'm
number of
sorry,
signs?
I just mentioned the,
Oh.
in
oh,
the
okay.
drawing.
I just wanted to make sure we thought you were okay.
He
on-
explained everything extremely well, so I apologize if I
That's all right.
misspoke and started talking about the sign size. I just want to let you know I'm in the
We-
city's requirement. and
And we thank you for that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
basically, I just would like to request a third sign because we're allowed two, and I'd like to put a third sign on the end cap if possible.
All right, all right. Kirsten, that, just a brief recap for anybody that might be here because of this, what's allowed and what is he here for? The end cap becomes the 30, he's only allowed 2 under our ordinance, is that correct? All right, questions for our applicant while we have him at the podium from planning commission members?
I do.
Mr.
So I'm looking at the picture of the building, the space includes all 3 of those sections or just what? Where are you gonna?
I drew in all three because that's how I was told to do it. And it's
Is the awning going to be the length of the, all 3?
of all 3 windows there, yes.
Okay.
And then the signage would not exceed what St. Joe allows, square
Except for
footage
the end
wise.
cap being the third sign.
Correct, that's what I'm here asking for, would be the third sign, please.
So each end cap is a sign and then the awning is one? Where are we getting the 3? Each end cap is a sign and then the awning is the, because it's a logo. All right. Other questions for our applicant? Thank you. You can go back and be comfortable, and if we need you, we'll have you come back up.
All right, I
okay?
thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. All right, questions, comments from commissioners or discussion from commissioners on this application?
Yeah, I can fully support it where it sits on a side street. I can see that anybody walking down State Street or coming on Main Street, it gives him some identity. Otherwise, it's just straight on from Pleasant Street that anybody would know he was there. So I fully support it.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. Ms. Burzak?
I fully agree. I think that it's very tastefully done. The size is not obtrusive and I totally understand the need to have it on both sides as well as the front facing Pleasant.
Thank you, Ms. Burzak. Yeah, it seems to me lots of people, where did you go? That's all right. Lots of people claim some of these. You actually have a situation where there is a very good argument made for the anchor because of the location of the building and the traffic flow. And the encouragement that we are doing now on walking and people crossing and sitting in the 221 and having that and looking down. You actually have one of those circumstances where you can make a very cogent argument that particular circumstances here really support the additional signage. So it's certainly something that I can support as well. Any other questions or comments or discussion from commissioners? If I don't see or hear any, this is not a required public hearing, but we never discourage public comment ever. If there was anybody here that wanted to speak to this or talk to us about this application, we would be happy to receive any public comment. Does anyone wish to speak to this request? Don't see anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, see nothing. Do we have, yes, Ms. Burzak?
I was saying I would like to make a motion.
I'll recognize Ms. Burzak for a motion. Go right ahead.
I move to approve a request JRP Connect LLC, Ben Soft Pretzels located at 608 Pleasant Street for a sign modification from section 25-13, table 25-1, 25-1 wall signs in the D downtown district from 2 to 3 wall signs as shown under section 25-33 to be 0.3 to increase by no more than one sign, the maximum number of signs or sign types otherwise allowed based on the drawings included in the July 9th, 2025 Planning Commission packet, as the request meets the factors as found in section 25-33 LB and 25-332C of the sign ordinance as stated in the findings.
All right, thank you, Ms. Burzak. Ms. Burzak has made that motion. Do I have support for her motion? Ms. Porter supports the motion. Thank you. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk may call the roll.
Perfect. Yes. Mr. Eber.
Yes.
Albert.
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Flicka.
Yes.
Chair Hartzell.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And because of our jurisdiction, that ends right here. It's approved. He doesn't. I would point out, sample pretzel or two to celebrate. Would have been a nice, before it would have been inappropriate. Afterwards, would have been a nice touch. We got a long meeting, but do you have horseradish mustard by any chance? Just kidding, just kidding. Well done. We're looking forward to having you downtown.
Thank you so much for your approval.
All right, next item on the agenda, public hearing on 2929 Lake Shore Drive, Clark Logistics Group. Map amendment, C Commercial Business District to RE, R3 Multifamily Residential District. Open the public hearing, and we have our applicant here, an applicant here to speak to this. Come forward, sir. Tell us who you are and what you're requesting from us today. And again, same caution, your application, of course, and supporting materials were provided to us. We have had a chance to look at that. So, and we've had some public comment provided to us as well. So
Got
with
it.
that, sir, tell us who you are and what you're asking from us today.
I'm Tim Monahan, Director of Development for Clark Logic. Represent the ownership group of 211 Hilltop in the application for 2929 Lake Shore. Primarily, we're an industrial company, industrial real estate, development, new development, Southwest Michigan. We've got about 1 million square feet in this region. And talking to Cornerstone last year about our property, 211 Hilltop, they mentioned the need for housing. So we have this parcel that was originally had a PUD when we bought it that was expired for, I don't remember how many units it was for condos. So we decided to change and look at multifamily to fill the gap of housing that we have here that, again, Cornerstone has been working with us on this. And so we're here to rezone it.
Thank you. Let's start with direct questions from commissioners to our applicant while we have him at the podium. I'm going to ask you, sir, get a little in closer to that microphone and keep your voice up.
All right,
okay?
thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have questions for applicant? Mr. Urick?
Tim, so the blue line on this packet did you do a lot line adjustment? Is that?
We did.
Okay, so it was all commercial. Now you've split the lot?
Yeah, to keep that fire lane as part of the commercial property, the driveway, to keep it around, it goes around the property, services 211, the entire building. So we're keeping that, we adjusted the lot to keep that driveway as part of the commercial property.
And what happens to the commercial building behind it
We're renovating that right now
to keep?
to keep it, yeah. Yeah, we're just talking about this parcel.
You keep your voice up.
Okay.
Other questions for our applicant? All right. Or if you want to go back and be comfortable for a minute, we'll
Thank
bring
you.
you back up if we need to. Because I think we have some folks that want to be recognized and have some additional input. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this application? This lady right here, yes, please, I'm sorry to point, but right here, if you come to the podium, please, tell us who you are and what you want us to consider.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Mira White, and my husband and I live directly adjacent to the proposed recent rezoning site on Lakeshore Drive. We have submitted a detailed letter outlining our strong opposition to the proposed rezoning. But to summarize the letter, our concerns are grounded in serious safety, infrastructure, and livability issues that would directly affect nearby homeowners. This portion of Lakeshore Drive near the intersection with Hilltop Road is already a heavily trafficked corridor with poor visibility and no sidewalks. Increasing density at this location would significantly heighten the risk of traffic accidents and create unsafe conditions for pedestrians in an area that lacks basic infrastructure to support this kind of growth. We're also deeply concerned about the impact on privacy and quality of life. There's currently no adequate fencing or buffer between our homes and the apartment complex. Expanding the development would bring multi-story buildings even closer to our properties, resulting in increased noise, visual intrusion into our homes and yards. This is not a minor issue. It's a substantial and lasting disruption for our current residents. The existing complex already struggles with maintenance, cleanliness, and management as evidenced by public reviews and firsthand experience. Trash and debris regularly end up in our yards. These problems negatively affect us and nearby property owners and undermine community quality of life. Approving expansion without enforceable commitments to correct these problems risks turning a manageable nuisance into a larger long-term burden on the community and city services. We're also concerned about the potential for declining property values of our homes and the precedent this would set for future incompatible development in our residential area. If the commission decides to move forward despite these concerns, we strongly urge that any approval include clear enforceable conditions. A 10-foot privacy fence, sidewalk installation, full-time maintenance staff, enhanced waste management, and defined noise controls, formally incorporated into the site plan and development agreement. But ultimately, we ask that you deny this rezoning request. The project as proposed is incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood and poses too many unresolved risks to public safety, infrastructure, and quality of life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who else would like to be heard? Yes, ma'am. Come forward to the podium, tell us who you are and what you'd like us to consider.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Fields and I own the property at 2829 Lakeshore Drive. Myself, along with Ms. White, acknowledged the letter that was submitted to you folks. I also took some additional photographs that better depict the safety concerns as it relates to the roadway and the curvature. When we are trying to leave our driveway, there's 3 homes back there. There is a curve, which I tried to depict in the photographs. I took one photo from my vehicle. It's very difficult. If there's an increase in traffic, and naturally there will be with more apartments. Now, I understand that Clark Logic Group is not an apartment complex entity, but they're looking to sell that to a real estate developer to bring in additional housing. I've had 2 instances that I've been able to document of people trespassing on my property. One was documented in a police report, which is incident number 21-004333. This individual was traveling along the railroad tracks that are behind our properties. That also goes down to the apartment complex, as well as the apartment complex that is on Cleveland Avenue. They're owned by the same entity, is my understanding. Another instance, that first instance was an individual who was on my, there's a tree that's fallen off of my pond or across the pond, and he was walking on that. My boyfriend made a report about that. A second instance, I have a photograph where an individual from the Cleveland Apartments was walking her dog, very harmless. We had a conversation on Facebook Messenger. And that I indicated she was on private property. She didn't realize that she was on private property and said she wouldn't do it again. But that's just 2 examples of increased traffic, that pedestrian traffic along the railroad, which one isn't safe, two, they're not supposed to be doing it in general, but having more individuals residing that close by in a close proximity in an apartment complex is concerning to me. If you wish, I have the copy of the police report as well as my Facebook Messenger, if you wish to view it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to, this gentleman right here, please, if you'd come forward, tell us who you are and what you'd like us to consider.
Well, my name is Mike Harmon and my wife and I live at 2831 Lakeshore Drive. So we are the ones that are right on the main thoroughfare. So it is very, very difficult to get out of our driveways as it is right now. As you might have known this past weekend, we couldn't even get out of the driveway because there was so much traffic on Lakeshore Drive going southbound. So you approved this, it's going to add definitely more traffic to Lakeshore Drive. You know, not to mention that when we try to get out onto Lakeshore Drive, people don't abide by the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, you know, that it's posted there. You know, as we've had police, I mean, my wife used to work for Motorola. We had a police vehicle, you know, a demonstration police vehicle there just to try to slow people down on this curve. Not to mention, you know, we do hear the noise from the adjacent apartment building that's to the south. You know, we do experience a lot of trash issues as well. Currently, those bins that they do have there are overflowed. I mean, there's many times where it's overflowed. And so the wind, if it's coming out of the south, will blow trash into our yard. And so then we have no sidewalks right there. So we have a constant line coming from Holiday Inn on the weekends and going down to the sandbar. So a lot of this, you know, and they're loud, you know, and we don't mind that part. We don't mind because we understand there's no sidewalk. So where else are they going to walk? They can't all walk in the middle of the street. But, you know, if you approve this, you know, it's obviously gonna, our sight line is already bad enough. It's gonna increase the danger to us. You know, we are long-term St. Joe residents. We've been here since 2012. So we've seen all the things that have gone on. You know, this company, you know, that wants to do this just bought the property. They didn't, you know, I talked to Kristen yesterday, you know, and she mentioned that they were supposed to come over and talk to us about this proposal. I never had that courtesy given to us. Nobody ever stopped by to let us know what was going on. And so I got this letter. That was the first time I saw it. And I had no idea, you know, so I, you know, was like, wow, okay. So, I mean, I was kind of upset about it, but, you know, I concur with my other neighbors, you know, regarding the problems that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Who else? This gentleman right here, please come forward to the podium. Tell us who you are and what you would like us to consider.
Close enough? Works? All right.
The voice up, because they're recording as well. Go right ahead.
Just making sure. Yeah. So my name is Greg King. I'm the Director of Economic Development at Cornerstone Alliance. The new Director of Economic Development here. One of the things in my role is I'm out visiting primary employers. We define primary employers, your manufacturers, food processors, wineries, you know, any major employer that brings wealth and jobs back to the community. I mentioned that there's about 300 of those employers in Berrien County. 41% of those employers are within a 10-mile radius of the city of St. Joe. Time and time again, when we go out on retention visits with those employers, housing always comes up as the top concern for them to attract and retain talent without a beat. When I ask them major challenge, housing and then a number of other things may be the first or second thing that comes up, it always comes down to housing. A lack of housing is also a challenge when we are working on large attraction projects to bring employers to the community or to retain large employers here in the community. It's really tough to sell a project in a, if you come, we will build housing mindset versus you know, when they're asking us, well, where will our employees live 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now? New housing in general benefits the city's tax base and it benefits the city's businesses overall. There was a study done on a housing project with 50 new units, which is about around the size of this project, can be expected to add around $2.75 million in consumer spending to the local economy here in the city of St. Joe. This project is also consistent with the 2016 city's master plan, but the future land use plan, which is not firmly defined at the parcel level, but we also want to acknowledge that new housing types will be needed to supplement the single-family supply that the city currently has. The market analysis that we did last year as part of the recently adopted economic development strategy shows demand for 525 rental units over the next 5 years, again, in the city of St. Joe. The City Commission, Planning Commission, and DDA jointly adopted fulfilling this demand as a priority last November. This project is the first, but very, very meaningful step towards those goals. Clark Logic is a great partner. They're a major property owner in this community. They're here to stay. And they intend to make future investments. So we hope, again, this is the first of several projects to come here in Berrien County and St. Joe. That's all.
All right, thank you, sir. Although, I'm picking with you, but Kirsten, I don't think this is the first since those goals. Did we not have a Harbor Shores additional housing that would have count to that count?
Yeah, the apartments farther south.
And the ones down south? So you aren't first. Sorry. You might be the bronze medal on that one, but you're not first. Okay.
And I'll pile on, I don't believe we acted on any sort of support for, there was no formal motion for that Cornerstone report.
I believe that is correct. I think
We
that-
had a discussion, we had a joint meeting. The planning commission, I don't believe, took formal action.
Council, I think that's right. Am I right on that? I believe that's correct. But we acknowledge it's, there's no question its existence. Those were numbers that were given out in the connection with that study. That's true. Who else? And if you're not very tall, stand up tall so I can see your hands. I missed somebody once. Anyone else wish to be heard? Close the public hearing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, questions, comments, discussion.
I don't know how to do that. How do I ask questions of the people that have presented? Because it's unclear to me as to what the issue is and how this creates more of a problem.
Well, we can bring those back. We closed the public hearing, but you can respond. Is there someone in particular you would like to hear from?
Lady in pink.
Is this lady, would you mind returning so that we need you on a microphone so that, because this is being broadcast and zoomed and all that kind of stuff. Mr. Urick wants to ask you a couple questions, if you would mind. Yeah, if you just step up to the podium again. Mr. Urick just wants to ask you a couple things. Sorry.
So I'm trying to understand what the concerns are. And I think, so the group of you are own the 3 houses north of this property.
Yes, there are 4 properties and 3 developments.
Okay. There's a parking lot there now. But I hear concern about a railroad that brings in undesirables, or maybe you've got noise maybe from another apartment building and trash. How does this property, if it becomes an apartment that now becomes managed, hopefully, make that worse?
Yeah, so I would say the key issues, so one is the traffic safety concern. It's very hard already to turn out of our driveways in terms of just having the line of sight to turn on. But also there's so much traffic, the main artery of St. Joe, Lakeshore Drive, and we're very close to where Hilltop. You can imagine we already have a lot of traffic. It's very hard to turn out. It's very hard to see when we turn out. So this will only be exacerbated. So that's one issue. The second issue is we already have that lack of privacy with the railroad that runs behind the house of Jen and Ted. We already have a lot of foot traffic from the apartment complexes there. We have a lot of trash that flows into our neighborhood from the garbage that isn't well managed. And so we imagine that we'll continue to see those issues and we'll see them even exponentially. We don't have sidewalks as well. So this is one portion of St. Joe. There's great sidewalks connecting, I'd say, from the high school down to downtown, but this area does not have sidewalks. So it's not necessarily the safest area for increased pedestrians, traffic as well as car traffic.
So you'd prefer it to stay a parking lot?
See, typically,
I can't hear you. Speak up.
oh, it's not a very populated, parking lot. So we don't see, issues from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Understand.
Ms. Burzak.
So I'm not sure if this is for staff, but Kristen, since that's developed, it's a commercial business district. Property in question, could it be developed for commercial use in that location? And
The property is all commercial.
Right now.
right, so could that parking lot parcel right now be used for another commercial use other than like what is being used for behind it?
Yes. Because it's owned by the same property owner to the east, so they can continue.
So I guess
Or
my-
any property. I mean, whoever owned it, that its own commercial could have a
own
commercial, its
So
own
I guess
commercial.
My question then is, there is in the ordinance when there's a R3 use adjacent to an R1, certain buffering requirements and things. Are those same, standards enforced for a commercial use adjacent to, no. So I guess what I would like to comment is that if it becomes an R3 use, there are certain buffer requirements that will have to be provided in terms to have an R3. With a commercial use adjacent, it does not. So someone could, it is a parking lot now, but it could then be developed as a commercial use, something else that may even be less desirable to you than what is being proposed currently. So that's just something to all keep in mind, that there is a buffer requirement when R3 is next to R1, but not commercial.
That's our existing ordinance. That's
Yes.
already in place. No, but that doesn't have to be added for any
Right.
purpose or any condition.
Right, so that's just something to keep in mind, that I understand that the visibility and everything is, it's very challenging there. I totally agree with that, but the potential for a commercial business might be more impactful, even more so than the R3. So just to keep that in mind.
Right.
So.
Other comments from commissioners? Anything from staff? Christian, I don't know that all of our guests are aware of this, but whenever we have anything like this, we, as a matter of policy, staff runs it by all applicable departments in the city for their review. That's automatic. This was run by everybody that has something to say about it. Police, fire, water, city engineer.
Yeah, city engineer has no engineering related concerns. I'll have to do, stormwater management when we get there, and they also noted that.
All of which would be part of the permitting process.
Correct.
Okay.
And then they do note that it's on, MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, is the permitting agency for any future driveways or access management off of Lakeshore Drive.
City doesn't do that, the state does that. But it passed muster with Public Service, Public Works, obviously Inspection Department and Community Development. We had no concerns raised by the staff, internal staff. Okay. All right. Other questions, comments, ladies and
I have
gentlemen?
a question.
Mr. Yurick.
Kristen, what's the maximum number of units that you could put on there? About,
We don't have a density requirement, so it's gonna be dictated on what they choose to build, and then parking. Parking is gonna limit how many units you can have to require parking.
is there an idea, an estimate of how many you might? put
I
on?
would ask the applicant.
How
Sir?
many units?
What is, we're not asking you for blueprints. That's not appropriate. But and duly noted, this is ballpark, but conceptually, what are your thought processes at this time about the number of units you would be looking at?
It's really hard to say right now. We haven't done soil boring, we don't know how high we can go with the lot and the engineering, so it's really hard to say. Don't really have a number. We haven't really got that far yet with consultants because you gotta get it rezoned first before spending a bunch of money on the cost. So rezone first, soil boring to see how high we can go in the building. There's setback issues. So it's gotta fit, parking issues, so we just haven't really.
We call them requirements more than issues.
Requirements, yeah, and we haven't gone for a unit mix yet, we don't know if it's gonna be studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, so it could be, it's just really hard to give you a number on units. We don't wanna go any higher than the current building. We're not looking for a skyscraper there. So we could
Good,
maximize
you're
the height.
probably not gonna get that.
Yeah, because again, there's so many. factors.
Existing ordinances already in place.
Well, yeah, the ordinance and we don't intend to max out the ordinance right now either. So.
Yeah, Ms. Burzak,
So the blue line indicates you said fire lane back to the other parcel.
It's a driveway, but yeah, we want to keep that for egress.
So that drive then becomes part of the commercial.
Yes,
So by doing that, then you're basically not required any additional buffering between.
Correct. Because it's adjacent to commercial.
And that driveway is going to be one of the main access routes or into the parcel behind, because that drive is not there currently, correct?
it's there now.
Okay. And there's actually a curb cut at that location
There
currently
is.
on that
Okay.
curve.
There is. And so, it just depends on, who's in the building right now, the back. We've got about 400,000 feet full, about 529,000 foot building. The back tenants are small warehousing companies, so it's not heavily trafficked with employees, which could change at any time, but right now we've got good tenants back there. So that road's not used very often.
anything else for our applicant? Thank you for coming back up.
I have one.
Oh, Mr. Plichter, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
What would your thoughts be if you weren't successful zoning this? What would you end up doing with this property? Or what do you think?
It's hard to say, we're developers. Right now, we're stabilizing an existing building, we're rehabbing it, we started painting it today. We do have trust issues from the neighbors next door, so I get that. We have demands all the time, we've gotten 2 calls today for major office tenants looking for buildings. So, I mean, it could be an office building, it could sit there. Stabilizing the rest of the building, half that building of office tenants. We've got people coming in now, doing 2 build-offs in the front of that building. So it's just hard to say what we would do with that parcel, but we do want to master plan that entire parcel, and I think it's a good gem for the community. We've got 20-something tenants in the building now. It's kind of a mixed commercial use right now. So I think we're spending money on the property, so but I couldn't tell you what we would do there now next door without this.
But you would develop it. You would eventually develop somehow.
We're tenant driven. If there was a demand for something,
You
Sorry.
you have, Ms. Burzak?
So the next question I'm going to ask is that the drive is currently there, however, it's in a location that provides limited use. It's a known factor that there's a curve there and a hill. Why was that location selected for the commercial to remain rather than placing it to the southern border where the sight lines are much better?
it's been an existing road. It's there. And we want to keep that with the existing parcel. So if someone needs to access the backside on the east side of the building.
Right,
We haven't
so,
gone as far as developing the site plan yet.
so I guess I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, traffic and safety. And if the parcel that you maintained as commercial moved to the southern border and the northern border then created the buffering between the R1 and the R3, you would have better sight lines for the in and out activity of your commercial area. And you could also consider, since you would own that and you develop that, that you could have the other exit drive for the R3 come in at that location, creating better sight lines and be a better neighbor to the R1 to the north.
Yeah, and we have Tom from the R engineer here that could probably address that better than I can, but we haven't gotten that far, honestly. Just
Yeah,
that road's
but-
there and we have a box.
Right, I get it, but
I
unfortunately.
do
the-
agree. That's,
Yeah, so, I'm just gonna say I do this kind of work for a living, so I'm gonna pick up on this kind of stuff. And to me, I think it's important to be a good neighbor, and having the commercial drive in a location that already has an R3 and providing better sight lines and less traffic at right where they're all trying to exit might be more desirable and more favorable for everyone involved, so. Gonna throw that out there, if you want to think about it.
Thank you, Ms. Persing. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, any other discussion, ladies and gentlemen, or questions, staff? If not, ladies and gentlemen, do we have what is your pleasure? We have a motion.
Yeah, I think it's supported by our master plan. It's supported by the future land use map. R3 is less invasive on the neighboring residential than potentially whatever commercial might be placed there. Yeah, so I can support the request.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. Anyone else? What is your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen? The applicant needs a motion.
So the only way I could support it is if they consider changing the access drive to the border.
The problem I have is we don't have a site, you don't have a site plan in front of you. It's
But
not,
they're parceling it off and wanting the R3 to be the area to the south.
hang on a second, Kirsten.
So the legal notice excluded the northerly 50 feet, so you have to go through this again. If that was
So I can't support what is shown.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, what is your pleasure, your applicant?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Everett, if you would, please.
Move to recommend approval of the proposed zoning map amendment requested by Clark Logistics Group 4 LLC for the property known as 2929 Lakeshore Drive from C Commercial Business District to R3 Multifamily Residence District based on the information included in the July 9th, 2025 Planning Commission packet as the request meets the required standards under section 22.3 of the zoning ordinance.
I have a motion from Mr. Everett. Do I have support for his motion? Support. Mr. Yerrick supports the motion. Is there further discussion on the motion? The only thing I would say besides agreeing with Mr. Everett's comments is I want to go back and reemphasize the master plan directives we put in place with a lot of hard work. But I also want to emphasize the push, whether I agree with Cornerstone in the study, you're correct, we did not adopt it. But there is a huge, and we do hear this, I want to emphasize here a lot in many contexts, lack of affordable housing in the city of St. Joe. Public hearings closer. It is a repetitive theme. We see it and hear it all the time, again, in varying contexts. And that is increasing the housing is something that has been encouraged and requested, and it is certainly part of our adopted master plan, which we did vote on and adopt. So I for that reason, I can support it as well. Kirsten, you can call the roll.
Mr. Eber.
Yes.
Mr. Orr.
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Plica.
Yes.
Chair Bartle.
Yes.
Ms. Burbine. No. Motion is approved 5-1. This item,
City Commission agenda will be when?
August or July 28th. It's on Monday.
All right, as you know, we're recommending body. We are not the final word. This goes now from us to the city commission. That will be the date and time, or I'm not sure about the time, I'll tell you that. That's the date for the meeting where this will come to the city commission. All right, thank you all. Next item on the agenda, a public hearing for 1234 Napier, otherwise known as Lakeland Hospital at Niles and St. Joseph Incorporated Plan Unit Development, third amended requested. Party do I have? I'm going to open, this is a public hearing. And I'm going to open the public hearing as to this request. Will our applicant come forward, please, and tell us who you are, what you are requesting. As you know, we received your packets and materials and application in advance of today's meeting. So tell us who you are, what you're asking from us today. I don't know. I know I'm old, but I'm having trouble hearing as well.
Oh, now the light's on. Can you hear me? It's red. I think the battery's dying.
Oh, okay.
But my name is Phil Cooper. I'm the Director of Planning, Design, and Construction for Cornwall Health South, which is the Legacy Lakeland. We submitted an amendment for our PUD. As you know, there's no zoning for hospitals in the city of St. Joe, and so they are all built under a PUD. We're in a residential district under a PUD, and we are trying to renovate and improve our behavioral health unit. And in order to do that appropriately, we feel we need to do a small addition to the hospital, which requires us to amend this PUD. It is, the addition is located on the ravine side, about 102 feet away from the property line. And it is filling in a little, if you look at the packet, it kind of, the building steps back and we're filling that in, and it'll be kind of a more uniform facade when we're complete. This allows us to get our behavioral health unit onto one floor, which is much better for patient experience, and I know this isn't for the behavioral health project, but it will allow us to have private patient rooms for all of our behavioral health patients.
Behavioral
So,
medicine.
Yep.
So is it an expansion then?
It's not expansion, it's just refreshing. So when we built the unit, originally, I think in the 80s, it has not been renovated since. And so this is just upgrading finishes and converting rooms from shared occupancy to private occupancy.
But square footage is ascribed to behavioral med would not change.
It will get larger, yes.
That's
yes,
what I'm
yep,
sorry. I didn't ask it very well. So perhaps a slight expansion in that sense. Okay.
Yep.
Questions for our applicant, Ms. Burzak?
So I'm trying to understand that gap that exists. What, from a circulation standpoint, what will be the long-term benefit of filling that in? Is there a circulation issue that currently exists because of that gap? That's the way the packet was worded. I thought that there was actually some accessibility issues based on that gap. Is that true, or is it really only to make aesthetic and split up rooms better?
Well, it's to make the unit function better. So right now, the unit is on 2 floors and
Floors for the unit?
correct, yep, just 2 floors. And some of these patients are difficult, violent sometimes. It's hard to manage bringing them up and down stairs. And so we're trying to get them all onto 1 floor where we can better manage their condition. Right now, the hallways are real tight, so we want to widen the hallways and make it so that they feel like it's a pleasant space to be in. But one important thing when you're designing a behavioral health unit is visibility from the nurse's station. And so in order to see all the way down the hall to all the rooms, that we needed to fill in that spot and allow visibility of the nursing staff to all of the patient rooms when we're moving all of the uses upstairs onto 1 floor.
Other questions for Mr. Cooper? Thanks.
Mhm.
We'll bring you back up if we have other things to follow up with. All right, this is indeed a public hearing, and if there's someone here that would like to speak to this proposal, happy to recognize you now. You just like the show and want to stay and watch us? I will note for the record that we did receive a public comment by letter, which was provided to us before today's meeting. Trying to find one moment. Judith Ludwig from Thayer Drive. I believe that's the only, is that the only public comment? There's one more. Yes, and we received email. Well, Kirsten received them forward to us with public comment from a Laferrell, a Douglas Laferrell from Highland Court. Hope I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly. And those were provided to us in advance of the meeting. We did have an opportunity to review and consider all of those. Additional questions, comments from public, anybody wish to speak to this? Close the public hearing. All right, discussion, questions, comments, thoughts, planning commissioners, if you have any, direct Mr. Everett.
I believe in Mrs. Ludwig's letter, the concern about the helicopter noise and things like that. I can certainly appreciate that. This weekend, there was a helicopter that came in a different approach and was a little startling, but this particular request in no way addresses additional aircraft traffic or reduction of that. So, you know, it really has no bearing on this particular request. Looking at the request, and it is just filling in that little niche. It's not encroaching any closer to the property line. So I really have no objection to the proposal as proposed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Everett. Ms. Burzak.
So the comment I'll make, is that I understand that the people in the area and neighbors, live with construction. And when construction finally stops, they're happy and they want to pause. So it would be very advantageous if you're planning any other small construction projects that you take care of them all at the same time on that side of the building, because I do understand the frustration when finally things are back to an operating condition where that, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. noise has been dissipated. The noise is not coming from helicopters, but the noise coming from construction. And then there's like, oh, now we need to fill in this. So I am sympathetic to that. But I do feel that from the standpoint of safety, and providing clear sight lines and, based on the circumstances of this isn't an aesthetic, it doesn't sound like to me. It's not just for aesthetic. You did mention aesthetic, so I was like, well, I don't know that I can just buy into something aesthetic because maybe that should have been done with the other bill. But it sounds to me like this filling in is to make it safer, not only for the nurses, but for the people that need the nurses' assistance. So please, though, if you have any other construction projects you're thinking about, try to do them in the same time frame with other projects so that it's not a constant, wear on the neighbors that we're gonna have construction again.
Aren't they out of land?
Just be cognitive of that when you're thinking about things you need to improve.
Thank you, Ms. Burzak. Anyone else? I understand, I agree. It seems to me, and I understand the concerns raised by the lady who wrote the letter, but Mr. Everett, I think is correct. Much of those concerns have really nothing to do with this particular request. Just the picture itself almost tells the story. It just seems to make a lot of sense. That space that is serving no purpose. It doesn't make it any, you're right, it doesn't encroach any closer. It makes good sense. Behavioral med unit, I can certainly appreciate wanting to upgrade, improve. And some of the concerns you addressed make sense in that regard. So that makes good sense. So it seems to me whether it should have been done, and sometimes you just don't get it all done for whatever. There are a lot of reasons, I'm guessing, that lead to things like this. It doesn't happen very often. For those of us with a history of the development of from Memorial Hospital to Corwell today, which I've been through most of that, I certainly can, this is just not always going to get done at the same time. So I certainly appreciate Ms. Burzak's concern, but it seems to me to make sense. So I don't have any problem supporting it as well. Other questions or comments or questions for staff? Mr. Or do
I'm
we have
ready
a
to make a
motion?
motion.
I'll recognize Mr. York for a motion, please.
Move to recommend approval of the proposed third amendment to the planned unit development for the property located at 1234 Napier Avenue, commonly known as Corwell Health, Lakeland Hospital, St. Joseph Hospital, as presented to allow an irregularly shaped two-story addition on the south side of the building, with each floor being less than 1,500 square feet, as the request meets the required standards under sections 13.2 and 13.3.1 and 13.3.3 and 13.6 of the zoning ordinance, based on the applications found in July 9th, 2025 Planning Commission's packet, which includes 4 sheets depicting proposed site modifications with no new or modified waivers being requested.
Thank you, Mr. York. I have a motion. Do I have support for his motion? Mr. Plick supports the motion. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk may call the roll.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Flintoff.
Yes.
Mr. Hartzell.
Yes.
Ms. Burzak. Yes. Mr. Eber.
Yes.
This will have a public hearing for the city commission on July.
And stay in touch with Kristen on that as well. Should that change for any reason? It's unlikely it will change, but that's your contact point. Thank you. All right, as indicated, if anyone wasn't here when we announced it at the beginning of the meeting, item 5 is not going to be heard tonight. It has been rescheduled to our August meeting, will be renoticed for that purpose. So we are on old business and council. What did I forget?
Before you move on, I think, just for purposes of the record, if the 2 individuals with conflict, we would indicate what the conflict is so that we understand. 'Cause right now we do have a forum, but we would not for this issue.
For this item, all right, I believe we'll start with Mr. Everett, and was one individual is going to recuse on this one.
Based on my involvement on the request for this parcel for a parking waiver that came before the zoning board of appeals. So,
Of which you are a member and chair, I believe.
correct. Therefore, there's concern about voting twice on the same issue. These issues are very closely related, intertwined. So to err on the side of caution, I'll be recusing from this issue.
And Mr. Yerk.
My mother was a tenant in the apartment building. She was evicted from there, and we were sued and we responded to it. And as a result, my 90-year-old mom had to move. So those are the facts.
So as far as a personal involvement that could impact party deal.
With ownership / management of the applicant is. Okay. And that combined with the other absences today, which were completely unavoidable, some that predictable, some were not. That's why we were not going to be able to have a quorum here today for this item only. I fully anticipate we will in August. The recusals will remain, but we will have Ms. Rice hopefully back with us, certainly Mr. Miller back with us. That's helpful. All right, is there any old business, Kristen, tonight? Okay, public comments on other things? All right, commissioner comments on any other issues before I bring your attention, well, we'll come back to it. Kristen gave us, this afternoon sent an email out, you all may not have yet received it, but it was giving a hard copy to you here today. I asked Kristen, and I'm gonna ask her to continue to do this, I like to have a handle, because our agenda this month kind of grew from where we were at the end of last month's meeting, so forewarned is forearmed and helps us plan in terms of time and running the meetings. And she graciously sent us this email this afternoon about possible, it's not cast in stone, this is not an agenda, just things that may be on the August agenda, just to get us kind of ready for time allocation and preparation. We certainly know that the public hearing for the 520 and 515 Market Street will be on the August agenda. At least 2 of these are going to be on because you've accepted the applications, am I right on that? The Main Street overlay and yes, so those 2 we know for a fact. Others, and I've asked, and I know you will, Kristen, you'll know, close the business on the 14th.
Makes the 14th, and I'll know.
Close the business that day, if you would just shoot an email to us, just saying confirmed, not setting the agenda, nothing as to the merits, but it'll just, then we kind of know what we're looking at for the monthly meeting and allow appropriate time to get ready. Is there anything else?
Can we push 520 state to the end of the agenda so Mr. Ulrich and I can excuse ourselves and not have
Yeah,
to
I-
loiter in the hallway?
Yeah, I would think that would
That would
be,
make sense.
I'd be more than fair. Yeah. Yes, Ms. Burzak.
And I will be recusing on item number 5.
All right. Not here yet, but when it comes in, you will be
It'll be
recused.
there.
Oh, okay.
It'll be there
Duly noted. And that's because of your employment with Avonmarsh.
because of working on this. Not because of employment with Avonmarsh, because in the past I've been allowed to vote on things that aren't related to me that.
But you are related
because
on
I
this
am
project.
Involved in this project directly.
Good to know. And then, because like I said, we take that very seriously. All right. Is there anything else? Yes, Kristen.
I informed everyone that Dustin did resign from the board today. So
Correct.
They do have one vacancy. Know of anyone, the applications are available on our website.
All right, thank you. If there's anything else, if not, ladies and gentlemen, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Jarek, thank you. I have support for his motion. Ms. Burzak supports the motion. Any discussion on the motion? I'm,
Did we have an opportunity?
I said it, but I'll do it again before we, do. Any public comment? We only have 2 public here. You're it. Well, we're happy to have you here. Is there any, hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. We will see you in August. I don't, but I can. Oh, but hang on to your material.